Episode 27 with Leah Barterian. Hey everybody, you're listening to the Never Forsaken podcast, looking at the lives of the outcasts, the seekers, the never forsakens, those in or out of the local church and passionate about Christ. The show is broadcast weekly, and show notes and more information can be found at neverforsakenpodcast.com. I'm your host, John Robinson. Let's get into the show. My guest today is Leah Barterian. She's a writer and the creator of a blog, withleah.com, Life, Love, and the Pursuit of Snacks. Leah, I love that tagline. How did you come up with that?
Well, I love snacks. I'm always snacking 100% of the time. And so I wanted something that was like catchy and familiar, but then also just kind of put my own twist on it. So that's where snacks came in.
Oh, I love
it.
Pretty
easy.
That's great.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's funny, like, my wife and I, we've been married going on 17 years this year, and like, we're snacks driven as well. So that's why I picked up on that, and we got so many funny stories with snacks. But I just want to kind of jump in with getting a little bit of background information. If you could just discuss a little bit your church/faith/religious background and upbringing.
Definitely. I grew up in an Assemblies of God church. And then went to Bible school at Christ for the Nations in Dallas, Texas, and came back home and decided to try a non-denominational church. Right now, I'm at Grace Christian Church in Sterling Heights, and I actually work here as well.
Oh, super.
Yeah, it's really great. It's nice to kind of be in the same place with that. So yeah, just a lot of definitely like faith teaching, but also just the biggest push here is just relationship with God and understanding His love and understanding how He feels about you. And so it's cool to be in an environment that really puts a lot of emphasis on that.
It's really powerful. It's good they focus on that. And one of the things I was going to get into a little bit is kind of how church ministries handle singleness. So we'll get into that in a minute. But when I first read your blog, you were a guest on Jory Micah's blog, and I had interviewed Jory a couple months back, and we talked about egalitarianism and complementarianism and women in the church and all that. And so to read your blog was really cool. And I was like, oh, you gotta contact Leah for me, and we gotta get her on the podcast as well. So you blog basically on singleness and single life. And so is your goal more to focus on various aspects of being single, or is this more your specific journey?
I think it's a little bit of both, because I think, I haven't always been like a happy single person. There was a big period of my life that I was just like super distressed about the idea of being single. And it really kind of hit me one day that like when people say singleness is a gift, and you want to like gag because you hear that so much, but it really is. And it's just kind of this journey of self-discovery. And so for me, especially my website is kind of just my own journey, but then it's used in the hopes of encouraging other people, both men and women that are single and not single, just, how to deal with situations, how to deal with life, and just kind of to bring the humor to it. Like, It doesn't have to be serious all the time. Life isn't always serious. It doesn't have to be sad all the time. And so just it's a mixture of my journey plus really trying to really get down to what the issues of singleness are, what people are facing.
Right. So, my experience was always with the church was like we had a singles ministry, and this is going back into the 90s. We had a singles ministry, but it was kind of more the opportunity for the church to quote unquote use us for ministry because we had so much free time. We had more free time than married people. So, basically, our drama team was single people, led by a married couple. Our different street ministry teams were like all single people led by a married couple. And it's kind of how my wife and I met. We met through ministering in different ministries together, and I just ended up, getting together and getting married. And so, but that's kind of what the church always taught us was that, you'll find your partner in ministry, and when you're serving God, that's when you find your partner. And they always kind of wanted us to not have a focus on actually finding a mate. So is that something that you agree with? Do you agree with that kind of church approach?
I do and I don't. I don't think that, I'm not someone that would change churches because there's not cute guys here.
Right.
But at the same time, I think that it's okay to have your eyes open. I think that it's a little bit naive to say, if you just dive full into ministry and this and that, someone's going to find you, because people are finding people all the time, everywhere, no matter what they're doing. And so I think it's almost kind of misleading, and I think that's why you have so many disappointed single people in the church, is because we're sitting around thinking, okay, I'm doing everything God's telling me to do. Why is he not bringing me someone? So I think you need to dive into what God wants you to do, but you need to dive into what you want to do too. And because happy people attract happy people. So for me, it's kind of this like, do I agree that lots of people have found people while working in the ministry? Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have tons of friends who that's happened to. You just said that was your story. But I also think that it's okay to be an active single person and go on dates and do that stuff that quote unquote normal single people do. So I think there has to be a balance.
Does that take people outside of the church, umbrella, let's say? Because I mean, I'm going back to times when we didn't really we had internet, but not all the social media. So, and our church was very authoritarian in kind of the way that it was. And it was like, well, you really shouldn't be looking outside of this church for a mate. And it happened here and there, but it was like, they were very controlling in that way. And not that they like hooked people up, but I mean, it was very discouraged to kind of date outside your tribe, so to speak. And so I think like our group, we might have had like 30 or 40 single people, and it was like, all right, well now these two got married, and and then there were 38, and then these two got married. Now there's 36, and so,
and you're looking around thinking, oh my gosh, am I going to be stuck with one of these people?
Yeah, there's not many people left, and so it was, everybody's kind of doing like it almost seemed like it was a showcase to see who was super spiritual and who prayed the best and who really pressed into God and all this kind of cliche stuff. Mm-hmm. Do you think?
And I really, I really hate that too. I really hate kind of the feel of, and not every singles ministry is like this, so I don't want to say this like as an umbrella statement, but I hate the feel of a lot of it. It seems like young adults or singles ministries are kind of just like these like active Christian meat markets where you can go and find someone to love. And I'm like, it just feels very, to me, like forced sometimes. Like if I couldn't dare show up in sweatpants and no makeup because I'm here to find a husband.
Be like,
it just,
can't be yourself.
And I totally would. So, but maybe that's why I haven't found a husband. But I don't know. It's just kind of like, there are some times when it just feels very, very one-sided, and really it's supposed to be like you're supposed to be in ministry enjoying what you're doing because that's what God told you to do, not because there's an ulterior motive to it.
So do you feel that churches for the most part are more family-centered and kind of leave the single person feeling left out? Because I mean, I remember like we had events like church picnics and different things that were very, very family-oriented, and so it was like, well, we're going to use the single people to like organize games for the kids, and it was like
you guys don't have anything to do, right?
Right. No, we got nothing to do. We don't have families, nobody to take care of. So, we just get used for all this other stuff. And it would be, you kind of feel left out a lot of times, I think.
Yeah. So, I think that churches don't do it intentionally. I don't think it's like I think that logically it makes sense. Like, oh, you don't have kids, so do you want to volunteer? But there are so many times when logical isn't helping the situation.
Yeah.
I don't think that churches do it intentionally. I don't think that they leave single people out on purpose. I think that it's a group that gets left out because it ranges from 18 years old to 100 years old. There's not a cookie cutter program for it like there is for youth ministry or for children's ministry, so it's really hard, I think, to minister to single people. And then what you have, unfortunately, and this isn't unfortunate because so many people are full of so much wisdom, and I have married friends who are just like my go-to people in life. But I think what you have then is sometimes married people overseeing a singles ministry, and it's like kind of a disconnect sometimes. Like, we're not in the same place. Like,
right.
You're kind of running this for me, and we're not running the same road right now. So, and that's not a slam, again, on anyone. It's just, I just think that the church unintentionally leaves single people out.
Yeah, I can see where that happens a lot. And like I said, we kind of did feel like that, almost to the point where we kind of did our own thing too. It was always like, we'd have church on Sunday, and Sunday's like the loneliest day, for a single person, because you got church, but then you've got nothing after church. And so it's like you go home and you sit around, and I'm telling you, this is like pre-Dish era and pre-Netflix, and there was there was nothing to do,
right?
And it was bad enough that like I said, the church was very authoritarian, and so they discouraged hobbies and all this other stuff. Like everything was about serving, and so Sunday afternoons it was like, all right, well, we'll all go out to eat. So there's like 20 people going out to eat, and then let's all go here. Let's and you end up kind of just becoming good friends through your individual loneliness, if that makes any sense.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I have friendships where it's been formed through this common bond of like, well, I don't have anyone to go out to lunch with. Do you have anyone to go out to lunch with? And so that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like a really odd state. And I think a lot of people just don't, number one, they don't know what to do when they're in it. And number two, the people outside of it don't know what to do with them. So there's just kind of like this in between, like, of I'm not in high school or college, but I don't have a family. So now what? Where do I fit?
Yeah,
and there's not.
And it's like there's something wrong with you. It's kind of, you get this like the stigma of there must be something wrong, like if you're not married by now. So, years ago, everybody, people were married at 13, 14 years old, but now it's not till 20s, 30, or maybe even longer. So there's this huge disconnect. I think that the church just really wasn't really prepared for it properly, in my opinion.
No, I agree. I think, I mean, my two sisters were both married fairly young. I have two older sisters. And we were recently talking about how even 15 years ago, it was completely acceptable to marry your high school sweetheart at 20, 21. And now people are still getting married that young. But now it's different. But there's still this weird shift of like, no one, is it different? Is it wrong? Is it right? Like there's no norm anymore.
Yeah.
And so there's just a lot of people that don't really fit. And so the older people, like I just turned 32, so I'm looking at 21-year-olds getting married, and I'm like, you're insane. And then they're looking at me getting married or not married, and they're like, you're insane. So there's just like, no one understands each other. No one knows what to do with each other.
Right. It's not like the process has definitely changed. So now, if you're friends with Jory, you must have an egalitarian view of marriage. And and see, now when I was going, the church that I met my wife in was much more complementarian, and so all ministry and all teaching was to teach women to be this like submissive wife and taking care of the home, and pastors' wives would take the women aside and go through these teachings, and the pastors would take the men aside and go through these teachings. And I think that has definitely changed a lot in the last 20 years.
Yes, I would say, thankfully.
So how does your particular church teach and view on that? Because I've not really been witness to that type of teaching in any church or denomination. Right.
I mean, we have. The cool thing about my church is that we have male and female pastors that are recognized as pastors. We have female pastors here whose husbands aren't in ministry.
Okay.
And so there's definitely an equality in that sense. So that's great to work here because I'm just seen as a person working here. I'm not seen as, a woman who, oh my gosh, she might be a little emotional today, or like, I'm treated differently because I'm a woman. And so in that sense, it's really, really great. I don't have any complaints about the church that I attend in that sense. I think that we're really well balanced. I think that there's just kind of, it's a cheesy way to say it, but kind of like equal opportunity for men and women to get involved. There's female department head leaders and male department head leaders. And there's men working under women and women working under men. And there's never any confusion and never any like, I've never had a man. I mean, I oversee I'm the program director for the youth department here. And so I have men who are 60 under me that I'm overseeing.
Oh, wow.
And there's never been an issue.
Yeah, you wouldn't have seen that years ago.
No,
Right.
no. I mean, I grew up in a very, the church that I grew up in was extremely controlling, extremely invasive, very unhealthy. And really, the people that went there became very unhealthy because of the leadership. And so it was a big switch coming to a place where I was like, what? Like, I can do that? That's okay.
Yeah.
And so it's been a really cool journey being a part of Grace and just being a part of a church where they recognize, like, God wants to use people. And so we're going to let them be used.
Right. Yeah, that's so refreshing. And that's, like I said, in our point, in our case, it wasn't like that. And it takes a long time to kind of come around and to, develop this more egalitarian view. And,
Right.
I'm not saying it's just not easy when that's been your whole life. And,
definitely not. Yeah.
Like a lot of things have helped to change that too. I mean, we would talk about the advent of social media and, how does that impact singleness and the whole dating culture in general?
Social media, I think, is like the curse of singleness. And
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you why. I think that when I was in high school or college, before Facebook, before we had like texting, that we didn't even really text that much, but it was before like any social media at all. I think we had MySpace.
Which I think that should make a comeback anyway. I think I'd love to.
I was thinking about MySpace this morning. I was like, man, I kind of miss it. Like my top 8, had all my friends up there, like the cute guys.
Play a song.
So yeah, like profile song. It was cool.
Yeah.
But so we had MySpace, and that was kind of it. But social media, I think, has really complicated dating in the sense that now you have the opportunity to keep tabs on people all the time.
Right.
And it's complicated it in the sense of I text him and he hasn't texted me back, but he's posted on Twitter. Like, what the heck? What's his deal? Is he mad at me? Like, did I look fat today? Like, you really overanalyze everything because social media has this presence where you're connected 24/7, whether or not you're actually connected.
Right.
And I think, too, that's made moving on very difficult because you have access to your ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend's life that 10 years ago you just wouldn't have had access to. You break up, you might run into them, but you don't see their face and how much fun they're having and all the stuff they're doing, and you're not connected to their parents and all this stuff online. And so it just makes, I think social media makes dating very, very hard.
Well, and plus, like, let's say for an example, for somebody to approach you and want to date you, they're going to go get all this background information first.
Yes.
Like they're going to know every single thing. They could go back for like 5 years and read all your posts and know so much about you that I think it's taken a lot of, and like I said, I'm married, so I'm not dating, but I would think for a dating person, it takes a lot of the mystery and a lot of the kind of steps of dating out of the equation. And it seems it makes people move through these steps like a lot more quickly.
I completely agree with that on 2 levels. Number one, I am someone who will stalk somebody, like shamelessly stalk somebody. Me, like I have my best friend who, if I'm talking to a new guy, she'll ask for his name and she'll stalk him. And I'm not a crazy person. That's what girls do. Every girl does it, whether they want to admit it or not.
Right.
So the problem with that is then you meet them or you get together with them and you can't remember what they told you and what you
stalked
saw through your detective skills.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to ask them, like, so how was your Aunt Julie's surgery? And then you're like, crap, they never told me that. I read that from last week. And so there's that weird balance there. And I think the other thing is just, I don't know, like you said, it makes things kind of not as exciting because there's not a lot of firsts. You're kind of learning about a lot of their exciting things without them telling you. And it does make it move really fast. I mean, it makes it speed up a process. Something that should take 6 months is now taking a few weeks.
Right. If that.
Yeah. And it's really, and I'm someone who is easily freaked out by a guy who wants to move fast. I'm just like, in general, just let's talk about it. Let's think about it. I don't know. Like, I need to take my time when I make a decision like that. And so for me, those guys freak me out. And I think that social media has a lot to do with that, because you can get online, you can learn. I can type in my name and you can see every single thing that I have online and learn all about me. And so it's just like, there's not a lot of surprise left in it. Social media kind of steals those exciting moments from you, learning about somebody. You just already know. And then you get bored faster too, because then you're like, oh, well.
Yeah, and I know, you notice that with the culture today, it's like a real quick boredom with people. And I don't know. I don't really know where it's going to take, socially, relationships as a whole. I don't know where it's going to be 10 years from now. I think it'd be a pretty scary place if it continues in this way.
I agree. I think that it's going to be very interesting. I think that people are just going to, no one's even going to meet in person anymore. Just going to arrange relationships through Facebook or whatever's next.
And then just like
live separate lives,
FaceTime each other.
Right. Yeah. It feels very different. Growing up, if a guy liked me, he had to call my house and hope that my dad didn't answer.
Yeah.
Or hope that someone wasn't on the phone. And I was like in a rampage, knowing that, like my little high school boyfriend's going to call and my sister's on the phone and we're fighting because she's on the phone and I need the phone and we don't have call waiting.
Right.
So it's kind of taken the pursuit, I think, out of it.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Like, years ago, like for me to call my wife, when we were dating at the time, or even like if we started kind of having that interest, it was like I had to kind of go talk to her friend, kind of get some information, what she's saying about me, and then, but I might not see that person for a couple of days, and all this time just goes by, which kind of does mess with your head in many ways. But then you got to get up the nerve to call somebody, and now it's like you see people like asking someone on a date through a text or through a message. It's like not even being done face to face anymore.
Right.
That's crazy.
And then you have those things not being done face to face, and then you have breakups not being done face to face. And so it's just really confusing. I think it's just really it's taken the opportunity for you to be a strong man or a strong woman kind of out of the equation. And that sounds harsh. I understand that, because I'm a texter. I like texting. If I really like a guy, I'll definitely talk on the phone with him. I mean, obviously I'll see him, but I think too, it's very easy to say things over text or Facebook or email or anything like that you just wouldn't generally say in person. And so it's
or somebody could just block
sometimes.
you. They go on Facebook and like block Leah. And then, you go log in and a person's just blocked you. And it's like, that's that. There was not even like conversation about it. Another thing too with singles and Christians is like, we live in a culture that could even hardly comprehend the concept of celibacy anymore. Never mind practice it. So do you find that in church, is that something that's become more difficult to deal with? Or I'm far removed from church life. Or is it something that people are having a hard time dealing with it, or are they still generally practicing it?
I think it's just like a really big mix of the two. I don't think that there's like a hard line in church. I'm not a virgin, but I've been celibate now for almost 7 years. And I made that decision to stop having sex and really doing anything. Like, I haven't even kissed a guy in 7 years or been kissed. I made that decision because I was kind of like, what am I doing? Like, I'm being really stupid. I'm making poor choices with guys. And so I had made the decision of like, I want to wait until I find, or the guy that God has for me finds me, Right. But I think too, it's kind of, in a really like over-sexualized culture, it's become very common practice to do just, I would say, everything except sex. And so it's really, I've been surprised by some Christian, both guys and girls, who, and not in a judgmental way at all, because I know how hard it is, especially when you like someone, to not do that stuff. But there's just kind of, I would say there's not like a hard answer. There's just, I think that it's prevalent in both ways. I know people who are in the church who are virgins, who have never had sex, who are older than me. And I know people who occasionally have sex and don't see a problem with it. And so I think there's just kind of like this, like I said, I think that the singleness is just very confusing right now because there's not like there's not like a textbook like this works for everybody.
Yeah.
And so it just, to be a Christian and you're trying to be pure and you're trying to do this and you're trying to do that, and especially as a woman, you're kind of wanting the man to lead you. And so if I have a man who is kind of all over me, but I know he's a good Christian, it's confusing for me in the sense of, is this okay? Like, he feels fine with it. Am I like too much of a prude that I don't feel fine with it?
Right.
So there's a lot of pressure too. It's just kind of like, it's very strange, and it's very, it's a lot of pressure because you really have to figure out what you want to do and really stick with it no matter what.
Yeah, I just think years ago it was, obviously the message has been preached for thousands of years, but it just seems that I think it ties in with culture and with media, which has changed a lot in the last 20 years. Mm-hmm. And so, for a couple to have premarital sex 20 years ago or so, it was definitely a lot more of a stigma, perhaps more so than now. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. I mean, I would not, if someone were to ask me my stance on it, like, is having sex before marriage okay? I would say no. I would say, no, it's not okay because I've done it and I know what it does to you. I know what it does to a relationship. I know what it does to your mind and to your soul. And just, especially, it seems like for women, you get very attached to the men that you're sleeping with, whether you really honestly care about them or not.
Right.
And so, do I think that sex before marriage is advisable? No, I don't. I just think it's a mistake. I just don't think it's a good idea. Now, am I saying that everyone's perfect? No, no one's perfect. I don't even want a man who's perfect. That's boring. And am I saying that I have been perfect? Absolutely not. But that's just kind of what I believe. That's what I think is best. And like I said, it's one of those things that we, especially in the church, really, really, really easily say, this is what you should do, without ever having to head and make that decision ourselves.
Right.
And we're not in the moment with those people that are really trying to explain. And so for me, there's zero judgment. Like, if you're doing that, do I think it's a great idea? No, but am I judging you? No way. Because I know how tough it is. At the same time, if they were to ask me, I would tell them what I think. And so it's just, there has to be a balance.
Do you think that women face a greater stigma or scrutinization in being single than men do?
Absolutely. 1,000% yes. I think that there is a huge amount of pressure on women. I mean, what are men expected greatly to do in their lives? And this is my opinion.
Hold a job.
Get a good job.
Yeah.
Provide, get a house, build things. I don't know, like, be manly.
Right.
A woman is kind of, and I was just typing something up about this yesterday, but it's really just society has pushed. And even though we're in this big, like, feminism movement and, like, females for president and all this stuff, there's still a ton of pressure of, like, life begins when you find someone who loves you and when you get engaged. And that's the most exciting thing that can happen to you. And then you're going to get pregnant, and that's the second most exciting thing. And that's your life. And those are amazing things.
Wow.
I cannot wait to get married. I cannot wait to have babies. But I think that there's so much pressure that is the most exciting thing that could happen to a woman. And I hate that.
Yeah.
I despise that there are millions of women who are not experiencing those things, who feel a sense of loss, who feel incomplete, because all of our lives we've been told that that's why we're here, to find a man who adores us and to have his children.
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that because I was reading some like pro-marriage, anti-single blogs, which would be like a direct opposite of your blog. So I'll read a couple. Yeah. I'll read 3 quotes to you, and I'll love to have you respond to each one.
I'm very excited.
Yeah, you did kind of just mention one. It says, a person truly can't know what love is until they're married and have children.
That like makes me angry. It makes me angry because what that is telling people is you don't understand love until someone adores you enough to put a ring on your finger.
Right.
And then we don't understand why we have men and women walking around who are incredibly insecure, who have ton of emotional issues, because they've been taught, like, how are you supposed to understand love? And for me, I would take that as, man, like, obviously I'm unlovable. I don't understand love because no one wants to love me.
Yeah.
I think that that's the most asinine thing that I've ever heard in my life, because there are people who are just not going to get married. And you know what? I have felt incredibly pure love. I have nieces and nephews who I would do anything for. I love my job. I love my God. I love my family. And to say that marriage is the ultimate source of love really just kind of negates everything that Jesus did. Then why did he come? Why didn't he just tell us, get married, find someone,
that would be salvation,
get married? Right. Like, that's how you get to heaven. That's how you understand how I feel about you. Go find someone to get married.
Number 2, the belief that remaining single is a legitimate and godly work is a work of the devil. Satan dishonors marriage by fooling us into believing that singleness is okay.
I think that Satan dishonors marriage into fooling us into marrying the wrong person. I think that that's how he dishonors marriage. I think he dishonors marriage by fooling us into believing that we have to hurry up and get married, or that the second that we find someone that we like a little bit more than the last person, that this is obviously it. I mean, I think Satan dishonors marriage with the act of divorce. And I'm not discounting that people have been through awful things. I'm not someone who would say you should never, ever, ever get divorced. I'm just saying I think that remaining single, if you haven't found someone that you care about, is smart.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's, a Satan's hand on your life. I think that that's the wisdom that God put in your brain. Well, if I would have married the guy that I was dating when I was 21, I would be divorced right now. Like, there's no doubt in my mind.
Well, it's funny you say that, because with high divorce rates, and I think that even I don't know the statistics, but that divorce rates in the church almost mirror that of outside the church.
Yeah.
But yet you've got like older married women putting so much pressure on younger people to get married. It's like, why? I have to look forward to like a 50% failure rate. What's the rush?
It's just, and I, like I said, I want to get married. Like, I have my whole wedding planned on Pinterest. Like, he won't have to do a thing. I'm ready.
Just show up.
But at the same time, just come. Yeah, just show up. But at the same time, if I didn't get married, it really wouldn't be the worst thing that could happen to me.
Right.
And so when people, I think I wrote something about this in one of my articles, but when people lead with the question of, so are you dating anyone, that sends a message that that's the most important thing that you could possibly be doing right now.
Right.
For me, like, I was very discouraged for a while because I was like, man, I feel so unaccomplished because I don't have a boyfriend. And saying that out loud sounds so ridiculous. But that's the message that we sent people. Like, the most important thing that you can be doing is dating someone.
Right.
Then I'll just go date anybody if that's how we measure accomplishments.
Yeah, you can be incredibly successful. It's not that hard.
I have been incredibly successful then,
right.
But it's like, it feels so silly and so naive to me. It feels so immature. It feels like that statement sounds like something that like a 15-year-old would say to me.
Yeah. All right, well, last one to get you angry. Number 3, the belief that... Oh, I'm sorry, I read that one. Number 3, men and women who are not connected in marriage are like the mutilated members of a mangled body. This is a legitimate Christian... Well, I won't say legitimate. This was like a Christian blog that came up in probably the top 10 that I Googled.
Okay, so men and women who are not married.
Who are not connected in marriage. Yeah, the mutilated members of a mangled body.
That is just like weird. That sounds like something that came out of like X-Files or something. Like, that's just ridiculous because it's just kind of like, again, so my life begins and ends with the prospect of marriage.
Right.
So that's the greatest thing that can happen. And if I don't get married, then I'm disgusting. Like, I guess I feel like I have known and been a witness to so many people who have gotten married for the sole purpose of, well, we've been dating for a long time. I guess this is the next step. And so they get married, and then they realize we never should have gotten married.
Yeah.
But they're okay because they got married. I just think it's incredibly nonsensical, and it's incredibly, like I said, it sounds really immature and naive. To me, I would say, if you were to ask me what kind of person wrote that, I would say someone who is not in tune with God, who does not understand God's love, and who's never read the Bible.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Although, Jesus' parents were married.
Yeah.
And he didn't get married.
Right. Yeah, I know.
So,
what better example, right?
Jesus was never married.
Right.
So he's mangled part of the human body.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, it's absurd, but it was literally in the top 10 when I Googled singleness in the church. It was a particular blog that came up, and that's crazy.
It's kind of funny. I mean, it is a little bit funny just because it's so ridiculous. It's so stupid.
I agree. Well, Leah, my final question is so when does a single person know when it's time to just get a bunch of cats and give it all up?
I don't know if there's like an age, like 42. I don't know if there's like a timeline. I don't plan on ever giving up. For me, I could see myself being single for 10 more years, and that wouldn't bother me. And I'm going to explain why. It wouldn't bother me because I've really tapped into who I am. Number one, who I am in Christ. Number two, who I am, who I want to be. And I really began to like that person. And that's not said in a conceited way or, like I'm so awesome. But it really, like, God made us with so much purpose and potential. And if we aren't reaching it, it's not because of him. Like, if we aren't happy, it's not because of anything God did or didn't do.
Right.
Yeah. I've looked at people around me and been like, how are they dating someone and I'm not dating someone?
Yeah. Well,
like,
that's natural.
Right. But at the same time, I always tell people, if I want to be dating someone, I could go date someone right now. I want to be dating the right one. And so I'll wait as long as it takes for the right one. If the right one doesn't come, then you wait and you just kind of, I don't know, I think to kind of throw in the towel, I could be really spiritual and say, oh, you're giving up on God's promise and blah, blah, blah. But no one wants to hear that when they're going through that. Like, that's an annoying thing to say to Christian single people. But I would just say, like, you're kind of giving up on yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you're kind of saying, like, well, I'm kind of hopeless and not worth it. Like, I'll wait as long as it takes because I know that I am worth it. Like, I won't settle because I know that I do have worth. And so for me, if I never got married, it would be okay because I'm really okay with myself. And so I think the balance is, like, find something that you like to do and pursue it. Like, do that one thing that your whole life you've been like, oh man, I should do that. And just do it. And don't be afraid to fail because everyone's failing every day at something. And just be yourself and don't rush things. And eventually something will come along, whether it's a man or a woman or a job or an opportunity. Like, I just launched my website and I'm so excited about it. And I was actually on a date thinking about my website, and that's how I knew that I wasn't really into the guy. But it was just kind of like, I'm really excited about this. Like, I'm really excited about what I'm doing, and like, it's something that I've wanted to do for a long time. And I think the key is just finding those things that you want to do and doing them for you, making decisions for yourself, being true to yourself.
Yeah, that's some
and
great
you'll never
advice.
be alone.
Right. Yeah, that's some great advice, Leah. Definitely glad you shared that with everyone. So you've launched the website with Leah.com. And so what else are we to look forward from you in the future?
Oh gosh. I mean, on the website, there will be lots of posts, I think, about singleness and relationships, and then just random things that annoy me and places I go. And the website's just kind of a little bit of everything. I would love to write a book one day. But in the meantime, I think I like talking to single people, and I love just encouraging them. And really, I would love to just minister to them in the sense that there's nothing wrong with you. And so if I can just, you said, like, what can we look forward to? If I can just find single people and, like, grab them by the shoulders and say, there is nothing wrong with you.
Right.
Then that would be, in and of itself, the next thing I want to do. That'd be a great accomplishment for me.
That's great. I like that. All right, super. Leah, that was a great conversation. I thank you for coming on to the podcast. And,
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. Look forward to reading your writings.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Take care.
You too.